In the Parsha of the spies come back and they say that we saw the giants and we saw ourselves as locusts in their eyes, and so too we were in their eyes. So how we perceive ourselves by them, I see myself like a locust, and also they also perceived us the same way that we project ourselves onto them. That's how they saw us. So the Gemara in Soita, Marshia says that the Meraglim were a bunch of liars. Because fine that you saw yourself like a locust in front of them, but how would you know how they saw you? You don't know how they saw you, so therefore you're a bunch of liars to say how they perceived they perceived us like grasshoppers. So the Gemara rejects this and says Velohi, it's not true, because they were having their meals of condolences, their Avelus meals, the Canaanites, and they would have them on the trees, and the spies, when they saw them, they'd run up the tree and sit in the tree, and under the trees the Canaanites would be sitting eating their meals, and said, oh, we saw people that looked like grasshoppers. So since they heard them saying, and Rashi brings in the Pasuk that and so too us in their eyes, it says that they overheard them say, oh, we saw ants, nemolim. And there's a change in the girsa in the Rashi to locusts, but it could be, except the Gemara does say that they overheard them say there was locusts, but it could be that Rashi's saying, maybe from a girsa in a midrash or something, or maybe it's just a misprint, but that we saw ourselves as grasshoppers, but they saw us as ants, even smaller. So since they overheard them, so for that they weren't liars. So what was Rav Marshashi? What wasn't even in the Gemara? He just doesn't know how to read a pasuk. He didn't have Rashi to look at him, so he's completely confused. Because there's a midrash that says, you say that they saw you as grasshoppers. Maybe they saw you like malachim. So how do you know how somebody sees you? From your perspective, it could be completely different from their perspective. You see yourself in a certain way, but they see yourself in a completely different way. The Or Gedalia says that that's how it is. It's not when the Midrash is saying they saw you as malachim. So no, that's how Goyim see a Jew. That once the Torah was given at Saint Sinai, the Jews occupied this higher spiritual plane, and all the nations of the world know this. Instantly when they see a Jew, therefore they hate the Jew when they see it, because the Jew's on a higher spiritual plane than they can ever reach. So the Gemara says that why is it called Sinai? Because Sinai came down to the world when the Torah was given. So this hatred is coming from the nations towards the Jew, because the Jew has that closeness to God and no one else has it. So therefore when a Goy sees a Jew, they don't see him as the Jew projects himself that the Goy sees, because the Jew doesn't necessarily see himself as an angel. But when the Goyim see the Jew, they see him as an angel. Now, so what are we doing with Rashi and the Gemara itself that rejects this whole pshat? So you have the subconscious and the conscious reaction, and then whatever you're going to say yourself, and you tell yourself, you make up a story to make yourself feel good about yourself, and you'll say it. But that doesn't mean that's really what's going on. Like the kid who pulls the hair of the girl, that means he likes her. But what does he say? Oh, she's stupid, I hate her, she's stupid hair, whatever it is. But the act itself is the act that shows that it doesn't matter what you say, the reality is something completely different. So Ramashia doesn't care, he knows the Rashi, but he's saying no, they're a bunch of shakranim, because just because you hear them say something doesn't mean that's how it's true. And that's how the Goy sees the Jew, that on a conscious level, let's say they will come out on a certain thing, but subconsciously they see them as a malach, they see them as an angel, and they intrinsically know that the Jew is on a higher plane, and then have this hatred for them. It's like, especially today in America, where it's all about money, and people have this inequality ideas that someone who has lots of money, let's kill them, and then it make me feel better about myself if you kill the people who have things that I want and I don't have it. So the whole basis of the anti-Semitism is always coming from the root, which is the Jew has the Torah of Sinai. So in the recent conflicts and the outbreak of anti-Semitism in the Western world, the Jew or the assimilated Jew has this idea that I'll tell you how to fix it, and that if I become more German than the Germans themselves, then they'll accept me. And that's all from my perspective of how I see things. Now, why does it never work out that way? Because the way that they perceive you is nothing to do with the way that you perceive yourself in their eyes. Your projection of yourself in their eyes has nothing to do with how they actually see you. And the Jew will always be a Moloch in the Goyim. And now, some people will look up to the Moloch, and some people will try to destroy the Moloch. That depends on that Goy himself. It depends on that person himself. This outbreak of anti-Semitism and your trendings on your mass genocide of Jews trending on Twitter and things like that is coming from the same point of which the Meraglim, the same sin of the Meraglim is coming out again. And the idea of, say, the liberal or the left Jews saying, well, let's placate the Goyim and that will make everything fine. And if the Jews, just for example, people use the actions of Israel as a reason for anti-Semitism, and it may be if the Jews weren't occupying territories, whatever that means, then there'll be less anti-Semitism. Now, obviously, in today's world, you can't just say, well, once I give you a good reason why the blacks are institutionally racialized, so therefore if they would stop doing things, the blacks would stop stealing, then maybe there wouldn't be so much institutional racism. That's not an argument that is accepted. But when it comes to anti-Semitism, that's completely fine, because what's coming from it is a completely different aspect to everything else. And the idea that you can solve anti-Semitism from making it good with the Goyim and doing things that are good in the Goyim's eyes, so that's only from my projection of that, but that's not what's going on, which was the sin of the Malachim and again of the Meraglim. And again, many are still stuck in this paradigm that's just causing more and more problems.